I'm Jack Simonson. I'm assistant principal. Thanks for the shout out, Sue, from Paulsbo, Washington, North Kitsap High School. And we're perfect. So really, I don't know why I'm here. We're an amazing town. It's beautiful. We have great kids. We've come from a great area. If you don't know the area, we're just north of Bainbridge Island. Bainbridge Island's a wonderful community. I'm feeling for them right now. They had an event yesterday. But they're a wonderful community, and we're right next door, and we share a lot of things in common demographically. And we kind of have that different perspective, that perspective that you don't hear a lot about with frameworks, that perspective of coming from affluence and, anyway, I love my town. We're perfect. We have a hardworking community, but we also have some Amazon, elites that kind of reside here. And so we have these first world problems when it comes to student growth, with people kind of saying, well, aren't we good enough? Do we really need to do a lot of student growth? I mean, we're pretty good as it is. So as a result, when it comes to student growth goals, we're terrible. We write terrible student growth goals. I'm going to say it. I can say that because I used to teach there and I used to write the same terrible student growth goals. They weren't smart, they weren't particularly helpful, and they could even be divisive with some of our staff members. Think about that for a second. You can actually write student growth goals that could be at odds with your PLC or something like that. And so going from being a teacher to then becoming an administrator at the same building I taught in, I knew this firsthand, that this student growth goals, they were a good connection to what was really going on, but they were hard to do, and they were often done poorly. They were forgotten. How many of you have sat down with a teacher as an administrator and realized that they don't remember their goals and you don't remember their goals, but you're just gonna fake it? And so we decided to do something about that this year, and we really made an effort as an administrative team to help write student growth goals, good ones. And we know they're good. We know that once they're written, they can be a real important tool, but they're harder to write than you think. How many of you have sat down with staff members and had them turn in their goals and they look something like this? And you kind of, your growth mindset, so you're like, yeah, let's work with this. Let's talk about SMART, and let's talk about how to make this more student-centered. And what we did is we found, just like any school, we had our higher achievers, we had our early adopters, and they wrote great goals. They understood SMART goals. And we celebrated them, as you should, but we didn't want to look also like we're playing favorites. So we really just talked about what a good student growth goal is, and again, as a team, how can we make this more of a focus in our building? So we looked at our TPEP. We're Marzano. We do Marzano frameworks for evaluations, and we looked at Criteria 8, which has all the perfect stuff. It's all there in Criteria 8 for what a good PLC collaborative team looks like. And then we started to frame the challenge not in a gotcha way, like we're going to punish you if you don't collaborate in PLC, but we're going to actually reward the good work that you're doing as a team tied to student growth goals. And we found out that it was kind of interesting. You can't start with the goal itself. You got to start with the PLCs if you're going to talk about Criteria 8 and collaboration anyway. And so we made it fun. We did team building. We played games. We got the teams to trust each other and to do work with each other before we even started to write the student growth goals. And once we started to write that, we found that there was less divisiveness at the goal setting process, and they actually started to oh, you do that, I have that problem too. And they started to write better goals, not perfect, but better growth goals. But then here's the trickiest part, and everybody knows this in March, we had to stay on message. We had to keep following it up. We had to keep coming back to, just like Whitney said, the growth goals, posting them, sharing them. And that became our administrative team's job. And then it got fun, because we got to talk about the sexy things like differentiation and how we were going to help our groups. And that administrators, we do the same thing that teachers do, like who are the teachers that aren't getting it, who are, and how can we help, and how can we kind of differentiate. And we kept coming back to Marzano because, again, they know everything. And so we had these great conversations with staff, because they all want to be distinguished. And so every single one. But you can go back to that framework and you can say, okay, well, to be distinguished, you have to be a recognized leader. What does that look like? And we had this great conversation, started using the right terms, and it wasn't us against them, it was us working with Marzano. And then here's our epiphany, that we found out the work is really no different than teaching from an administrative. It was really the same idea. Putting examples, making it clear, and staying on message and coming back to it. And now we're even perfecter. It's great. So thank you.